My man, Elliott Hulse, is here. I don't even know where to begin, honestly. You and I have known each other for at least 10 years now, right? 2006, 2007? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about, we just had lunch and talked a lot. We should have just recorded the whole thing. Yeah. We should talk about both of us have gone through quite an evolution. So let's start now and kind of work backwards. Talk about, what's going on right now in your life. Let's talk about training first, and then we'll talk about business a little bit and spiritual stuff and all that. How's your training evolved? What's your training like now?
We spoke about that briefly.
Yeah.
I do yoga mostly. So every day I do yoga, and I add resistance training in as medicine. In other words, I take doses of it when it's appropriate in the prescribed, we do program design. So yeah, mostly yoga, but I have to. So
you do yoga every day?
Yeah, I do yoga every day.
Love it. Yeah. For an hour?
Yeah.
And so did you get trained in yoga? Did you just start going to classes for a while? What was the kind of evolution there?
I was attracted to the idea of yoga first. And so I'm an athlete. Yeah. So, the whole idea of movement, but conscious movement associated with breathing just seemed like it was a pretty cool idea for me. But being a football player and being a professional strongman, everything I was doing was was very explosive, very fiery, lifting heavy, throwing shit, dragging things.
Right.
So I saw yoga as like the antithesis. It's exercise, but the antithesis of smashing my head into quarterbacks and flipping tires.
Right.
So at some point...
and was there a realization? Because I've had that realization where it's like, I'm only doing the hardcore shit. Like, I need some of the antithesis. Did you come to that like, oh man, I don't have enough of that kind of stuff?
At one point, I knew, I intuited that I would take a break from lifting. I would stop lifting. I mean, even when I was a professional strongman, like I was lifting's my life.
Yeah.
I own a gym. It's what I do. But I knew that there would come a time, I used to say when I retire.
Right.
There's going to come a time when I'm going to smoke weed and do yoga. That was what my life was going to become.
Yeah.
So that I can kind of cool off or create balance with all the heat that I was involved in the first half of my athletic career. So I didn't realize I was going to come at age 35. So that's what I do now. That's who I am.
Yeah. And was there a particular style of yoga that you first started doing? What do you do now? What do you prefer?
Yoga's a broad term.
Yeah.
We spoke about that briefly, how it means the yoking of the body and the mind. So there are many different titles for yoga styles. One is vinyasa, and it's very athletic. They've even called it like power yoga. So coming from the athletic yang dominance of the activity that I've typically engaged in, it was a good transition into, ultimately meditation is the goal. So I'll do active meditations on my way to stillness. And that's what yoga is, kind of a bridge. And
now what's your strength training like nowadays?
What I was alluding to before with regard to medication is that I just take it to feel good when I'm ready. I self-medicate with it. So doing anything in isolation creates imbalance.
Yeah.
So yoga does the same thing. As imbalanced as I perhaps was on the yang end of the spectrum, if I do nothing but yoga, I feel like a noodle, and for a guy who likes to lift heavy, or typically that's what I'm built to do, sprint, jump.
Yeah.
It's not great. It doesn't feel great to have no tension in the muscle whatsoever. So just to keep the spokes tight, just to keep a little fire in the tissue, I'll lift. When I say heavy, I'm thinking 3 to 8 reps. That's my favorite rep range.
Okay.
No more than 3 times a week.
Yeah. And give me like a most recent workout. What did it look like?
Most recent resistance training workout.
Yeah.
I was doing circuits. It's probably about 2 weeks ago. I've been traveling.
Yep.
2 weeks ago, and it was circuits. I just decided to choose, and it was random.
Okay.
I decided, I'd like to feel my legs a little bit. I'd like to breathe a little bit heavier. I'd like to stimulate my core a little bit. So I threw some deadlifts in there, and I probably coupled it with a push.
Okay.
And then maybe some isolation and conditioning. So a little circuit between those 4 things.
Yep.
You know, a pull, a push, isolation. I don't remember what the workout was, but, you know, probably isolating shoulders or hamstrings, and then going into a conditioning.
Do you do a decent amount of body weight stuff? Body weight training?
When I do yoga, it's all body weight, dude.
Yeah. So you get in the gym, you just move weight.
That's my body weight stuff.
But before you got into yoga, I felt like there was a time where you were doing more body weight stuff in your training, or I could be wrong. A little bit, or not so much?
I was originally trained by a martial artist. My uncle was a martial artist and a gymnast.
Okay.
So, and you know, phys ed when you're a kid is all push-ups and pull-ups.
Yeah.
So it's been a staple of any athlete's program. It's a staple to do body weight. When I got introduced to barbells, you know, I became addicted. Because what's better than, you know, moving your own body, moving other shit.
Right.
So, but it's always been a staple. It's always been a part of it. Now when I do yoga, that really it's all my body weight.
Yeah. And how many years were you a professional strongman?
I started strongman in 2007. I competed 8, 9. In 2010, I tore my left bicep, and that's when I started to step away.
Gotcha. What other serious injuries did you have during those years?
Well, following that, I tore my right bicep, and then I tore my right Achilles tendon.
Oof.
Yeah.
How did all 3 of those happen?
Well, the right bicep I was doing some training one day, you know, I was doing Conan Wheels.
Okay.
I was preparing for a strongman show. In fact, I was slated to win my first professional show. This was 2010. So I had just gotten my pro card, and I was preparing to go into my first show. And when we go on forums and you could see other people's videos and you could see other people's like what they're lifting. So we go on there and I was like, man, I'm stronger than everybody else who's competing against me. And I'm like real cocky and think I'm going into this show and I'm beating all the pros. And one of the training sessions that I had about 2 weeks before I went into that first show was doing Conan Wheels, very bicep heavy exercise. If you imagine, you know, this is where the guy takes a long bar that has either a motorcycle or a bunch of weight on one end and it's pinned into a sort of a pinwheel. You go around in circles. You could imagine that. So very bicep intensive. I went home that evening and visited my parents. And there was recently a frost, and a lot of my dad's trees that he just buried, my dad's gardens, died. And he needed some help pulling out some roots. So I went to the backyard and helping my dad. He's pulling on the roots. I'm pulling on the roots. And we hear snap. And my dad thinks it's the roots, and he's kind of like cheering. He's like, all right, good, we got it. And I immediately knew what had happened, and my left bicep, which one was it? It was left then, yeah. My left bicep rolled right up into my shoulder. Damn. Don't put ice on a torn bicep. Yeah, I learned that the hard way. I put ice on it, and because it's detached, the muscle still contracts because it is stimulated by the cold. So it starts contracting, but it has nothing that it's anchored to. So it pulled right up out of the elbow into the shoulder, and that was the most painful part. Yeah. Physical part. But that day was the first day my oldest daughter saw me cry. And I was weeping, I was sobbing. And I wasn't crying because of the pain. You know, I'm a masochist, I lift. I mean, pain's nothing. Physical pain's nothing. I cried because I knew that it was it was a character death. It was the death of a part of me, a piece of me, a layer that I had been carrying, you know, proving myself through strongman, which I'm glad I did, but that was an indication. Oh, sorry. That was an indication that it was time to hang it up. Yeah. My bad, dude.
And did that? No, I know this guy's used to being on video and bouncing around. It's a ball of energy. Got to keep you contained here for the podcast. So, was that? Did that take a while to get over? Like, were you struggling with that mentally a little bit? No, you just had that one night and that was it.
Yeah, because I knew. See, in other words, I saw it coming. I don't want to say I saw the bicep tear coming, but it was unsustainable for me to be that character for much longer. Plus, I knew at an innate level that there was more that I was being called to do in this world than flipping tires is great. You know, lifting stones is great. So when that occurred, I took it as, you know, maybe I reframed it, and maybe I'm superstitious, but I took it as a omen, as a sign that, Elliott, it's time to hang these shoes up. They're not serving you in the best way, and you can't serve the world in the best way
Yeah.
by continuing down this route. So now it's time to make a decision about what the future will look like.
Yeah.
A new decision, a new way of being.
Yeah. So let's just backtrack for a sec. How did you first get into strength training? Was it for sports?
When I was 4 years old, my uncle, who was a black belt in Kung Fu, he was a marathon runner. He ended up being a bodybuilder, all-around athlete, badass. He was the type of guy who used to do standing backflips.
Wow.
He just and he used to chop bricks with his hands.
No shit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, completely. So I literally grew up with a Superman living in my house.
Yeah.
That's how I saw my uncle. As a martial artist, he also was an instructor. You know, you're a black belt, you teach. So he spent a lot of time at our house teaching me and my brother, 4 or 5 years old. And I've got pretty good genetics, so I'm already kind of faster and stronger than the other kids.
Yeah.
And here I am getting training. My uncle's teaching us how to do push-ups and sit-ups and chin-ups in my parents' basement at that young age. So he was my first trainer in that way.
Okay.
And then it's so amazing to see how he came back into my life at the critical age of 14 when I was becoming a man. And at that age, we're needing a little bit more guidance.
Yeah.
A little bit more masculine guidance. You're just becoming a teenager, just becoming a man, needing that initiation. And he literally came back into my life and initiated me through barbells, taught me about myself through lifting. And so that was my introduction to lifting.
So, let's expand on that a little bit more. Talk about the life lessons you've learned through lifting.
Well, one of the wonderful gifts that lifting has given me is my injuries. And I like to say that every wound is a womb. Every injury is an opportunity to die and be born again.
Yeah.
I literally had the experience with my left bicep and each subsequent injury. And now that I think back in my life, I've had so many injuries.
Yeah.
As a kid, running into walls, busting my forehead open,
Right.
busting my face open, football. Each one of them humbled me and forced me to go in. I'm an extroverted guy, very animated. These injuries forced me to slow down, sit down, breathe, and recover, where that doesn't come naturally to me. And in that process, I've been able to literally become new people.
Wow. Love it. There's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, but you mentioned masculinity there, and that's definitely something I want to get into, because I know that you like to read about that and talk about that, and it's definitely, we live in a world, a weird kind of time where there's a lot of people who want to do away with that concept, and it's downplayed a lot. And there's so many things we could get into on that, but talk about what's missing from men's lives to feel fulfilled, to feel connected. Just expand. What are your thoughts on masculinity as a whole? I know it's a vague question, but I know you have a lot of thoughts on it, and it's something you're passionate about talking about.
I would say nothing's missing except a connection, and it's a connection that we all, men and women in our culture, have been severed from. And it literally is the connection between the head and our heart, or our body, our intuition, our feeling, our sensation. A part of our conditioning in society has been to suppress the sexuality of the body. We've done that through multiple different means. School is a wonderful way to do that to very active, hyper, vibrant children. Get them to sit down, get the body very dormant, get the breathing very shallow, and then hyper-stimulate the mind.
Right.
When you watch TV, the reason why they call it programming, or I don't know if that's why they call it, but you're literally being brainwashed because your brain's being stimulated in absence of pulsation in the body.
Yeah.
So as we remove physical activity from our education programs, as we move physical activity from our conditioning, that's what we do as conditioning coaches. We condition people. We lose a connection to our bodies. We lose a connection to our sensation. Your body has language. Your body has intelligence. Our bodies are so intelligent that it grows a human being inside a woman's womb without her having to do anything. You see, she doesn't have to do anything. It is the intelligence of the body. When we just ate that meal, Our body does all the digesting. There is a innate primal, deeply intelligence within the body, but we have lost access to it. Some of that intelligence is called instinct or intuition. So as far as masculinity is concerned, how can we be more lined up and in touch with our truth if everything that the place from where we're proceeding is idealistic ideas, the concepts of masculinity as opposed to groundedness in our own balls.
Right.
I don't need a definition of masculinity if I'm in my body. I am man. I don't have to do anything. I'm being it. You see the difference there? As opposed to, well, men should be doing this or men shouldn't be doing that. That's all about the doing, not the essence. The essence is coming home.
Do you think a lot of men miss out on the tribal connection that we used to have? Like we're so isolated, and I just think that that's missing from a lot of people's lives. I mean, when I hold events and when I talk to guys and when I get emails from guys, as I'm sure you probably do, they don't have a lot of real men around them that they can be friends with and do guy shit, whether that be hunting or whatever it might be. We don't have rites of passage for young men anymore. I think there's a lot of issues like that with the way we live. It's great. You and I spoke about the internet is how you and I are able to be friends, and there's a lot of great things about it, but we live where it's easy to be isolated too.
We're isolated from ourselves and we're isolated from one another.
Yeah.
If I'm not connected with my heart, how will I connect with yours?
Yeah.
You see, so the isolation is within self. If I can't stand in my own truth, stand in my own presence, connect with my own heart, then it's going to be difficult for me to open up and be authentic with anyone else. So one of our challenges is, how do we get back into our heart intelligence, so much so that we merely attract and be with and enjoy the presence of and support one another? It starts with us. It starts with the individual first.
Yeah. Talk about the importance of the people you surround yourself with and eliminating, because a lot of people ask me about that and they have a hard time if their family members or their close friends from high school are, the cliche, the 5 people you spend the most time with, they're not those kind of people. So how much importance do you place on that? Like distancing yourself from these people and attracting and being around the people you want to be around? And just someone who's listening, who's surrounded with a bunch of people who are not living the way they want, how do they get those kind of people in their lives?
The first thing is to come home to self, meaning instead of looking for a replacement of your friends, because your friends are a reflection of who you are, who you're being.
Yeah.
The people around, we don't have to try to get people around us. If you want to know more about yourself, look at the people around you. If you're hoping to have different people around you, maybe come home and change who we are.
Yeah, I love it.
So before trading friends, right? We got to become the type of person that will attract the new type of friends that we're wanting.
Right.
So I say the first step is get away from everyone. I'm not interested in having you have new friends. I'm interested in you getting in touch with your truth, your essence. That way the friends that are supposed to be attracted to you just show up and there's no resistance.
Yeah. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, we had coffee before.
All right, so tell me, people first discovered you online. Well, now they know you from, I don't know how many followers you have on YouTube and whatnot, a million videos. How did you first become Yo Elliott and get that whole thing going? Let's go where you started. You started when you opened up Strength Camp from the beginning. Like, let's talk about the evolution of your business and your growth.
In 2004, my wife and I got pregnant with our first child. I have 4 children, and we decided to move down to Florida.
You were living in the Northeast?
Yeah, New York.
Right. Okay.
Long Island.
Okay.
And that's where I grew up. And my parents moved to Florida about a year before I did, maybe half a year. When we had our daughter, I wanted to be near my parents. I wanted to keep our family together. So my wife and I moved down to Florida. I am a personal trainer by profession. So I took a job at a fitness gym. I am an entrepreneur by essence. So I knew that at some point I was going to branch off onto my own and learn how to build my own business. In fact, my uncle, who taught me training when I was 4 and 14, also introduced me to the idea of a non-job. He introduced me to the idea of entrepreneurship. This was like 1994, before personal training was a thing. And my uncle walks into our kitchen one day.
It was
and
a
tells
thing
my
because I was doing it in '94.
Was
Don't
it?
sleep, son. Don't sleep,
Well,
son.
you're kind of old, bro. You're dating yourself. I was 14 in 1994. I met my wife then too. And my uncle and yourself were one of those renegades out there doing something that really didn't exist pretty much before that, which was working for yourself as a trainer in for people. They pay you to exercise. You know, it was a new thing. So when I saw him do that, I knew immediately what I was going to do with the rest of my life. Oh, my uncle teaches people how to get stronger, and that's his profession. Well, that makes perfect sense. Why would I do anything else?
Yeah.
So when I left the fitness gym to start my own thing, I did it out of the back of my van, a 1988 Ford conversion van that my dad handed down to me. And I drove around the city. Zach Evanesh was an inspiration to me. Driving around the city, picking up trash to train people with in the park.
Oh, wow.
So I got some used tires, and so I made tire sleds. I got some sandbags. I bought some used barbells and just a bunch of junk and threw it in the back of my van and started inviting people to train with me in the park. And that's 2005 or 6. Boot camps weren't a thing then either. We're evolving so quickly that these things show up and they're a part of our lives. Like it wasn't, like it was always there. But boot camps was not a thing. So I didn't even think to call it boot camp. I called it strength camp. Because I lift, and we're going to lift. We're going to go out in the park, and we're going to do a strength camp. So I did that for a little while until I moved into the first warehouse gym that I...
Was it successful pretty fast?
No. No, not at all.
What were some of the struggles at the beginning?
There's a wonderful story I like to tell about pushing my van, but not for fitness. I used to run out of gas all the time, bro. Yeah, so there's one time when it was like 5:30 in the morning. I'm going to meet the guys out at the park or at my warehouse gym. And once again, that van filled with all those sandbags and barbells and shit ran out of gas. Oh, man. And luckily I was near a gas station. I pushed it up to the gas station. What really rubbed salt in the wound was that when I put my card in the machine, it was rejected. And rejected and rejected. And I just had to leave my van there and walk. So I had a long, thoughtful walk about, what I want to do and be in my life. So that was probably one of my lowest points. I knew at that point.
How'd you start turning around?
Mindset. I wasn't willing to give up. I, at that point, knew that if it didn't work out for me, I was going to go pick oranges with the migrant workers in Florida. Yeah, I would have much rather go do mindless, mundane work so that I would be forced to get back into creativity than ever go back to a job. So it's that type of commitment that I think helped me pull through. Plus, I was scared as hell because I had mouths to feed and a growing family. And if I didn't put food on the table, well, then all that falls apart. So there was quite a fire under my ass.
So then it was successful enough, obviously, they saved up the money to be able to rent the first space for strength camp?
No, that was all on a credit card. Yeah, I got into about $90,000 of credit card debt at that time. So, yeah,
I've done the same thing. And then take us through the evolution of how strength camp grows, some mistakes you made, some big aha moments, some breakthroughs.
Well, I'll share with you how YouTube came to be a thing. Around the same time, 2006, 2007, YouTube came about. So it was like YouTube was not a thing, much less a YouTube celebrity. Like that doesn't exist. I think there was Charlie Bit My Finger was like the first.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, the little British kid. Well, anyway. So I started recording the workouts, filming the workouts, and putting them on YouTube so that the guys that were coming to the camp could show it to their friends.
Oh, wow.
I was trying to get referrals.
Yeah.
So you come to my workout, hey, look, we made a little video, you guys. Go show your friends, email it to them, let them know what you're doing because it's cool shit.
Yeah.
And so that got me some referrals.
Okay.
I didn't really account for the fact that the whole world, millions of people would potentially see these videos. And so with them came questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the bright idea one day to just start answering the questions that people were asking me from all over. And that's when I created Yo Elliott. So I took questions and I gave entertaining answers and people liked it. And in a matter of a few years, my channel went from nothing, because it just started when YouTube started, to over 1 million subscribers.
Jeez. Now, were you writing and blogging during that time, or was it all video?
Like yourself, man, multi-talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to write. I like to speak.
Yeah.
I like to coach. So yeah, I was writing also. I was writing blog posts, writing emails, creating products.
Gotcha. And talk about, so you all of a sudden get all these subscribers on YouTube, and you weren't selling anything online at the time, right? You just had your gym and YouTube. And then when do you finally launch a product online, like a training program or an ebook or something?
Almost immediately.
Oh, okay.
Because when I quit my job, when you work at a fitness gym, they give you leads. In other words, like, people are coming in and you get a session to sell and convert.
Yeah.
You don't get that out in the world. And I quickly realized that I need leads.
Yeah.
So I started studying internet marketing.
Okay.
With the sole purpose of getting leads so that I could have clients. Well,
was there anything that led to that? Like, was there anyone that said, "Oh, you should start reading this or that"? Or
when I was in college, my best friend Richie started a betting tips service online. Now, this is when AOL chat rooms were around.
Okay.
And a bunch of the guys on the team were chronic gamblers. They would bet on sports. So Richie got the idea that, like, these guys will pay anything to win. Yeah. They're addicted.
Yeah.
So he started going on chat rooms and giving tips. He always read newspapers. He was kind of good at picking who's going to win. So he says, well, fuck it, I'm going to charge people for my picks.
Yeah.
So here we are at, like, I don't know what year, but we're like 20 years old. And his first month of, like, screwing around with the internet, because I didn't know what the hell he was doing. I don't think I had an email address.
Yeah.
And he earns 40 grand.
Whoa.
And so that put the seed in my head that, okay, when it's time for me to build my business, I'm going straight to the internet.
Right.
Which was revolutionary at the time. Now everybody wants to be an internet superstar.
Yeah.
My kids, they grew up in this. But you and I, we're older. We came here when phones were still attached to the wall.
Yeah.
So the whole idea was just brand new.
Wow. And how fast did your internet business grow? Was it a struggle for a while, or was it successful from day one?
Well, it was very helpful to have the auxiliary income, to have the extra income. I knew that based on the type of lifestyle I wanted to live, and I was having a big family grow, that there was no way I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do, live the way I wanted to live, be my best with the income that would come from my gym.
Yeah.
So I knew very early on that I was going to need to supplement it. Having the seeds put in my head many years ago, and then learning about internet marketing at the appropriate time to get people to come to my gym, the plate already began to be spun with regard to publishing. And I created my first ebook in 2006, and I called it Unleash Your Primal Edge.
I remember that.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah. And that did pretty well when you first released it?
No.
Okay. A little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I didn't sell very many of them at all until I didn't have any success until I started my football strength training product.
Okay.
I was a football player. I trained mostly football players at the gym when we moved in there. So I created it wasn't digital at the time. I actually printed. I had Vervante print them out. And you'd get a package in the mail with the DVDs and the workouts and the meal plans. And I also attached a continuity to it. So I had a DVD of the month.
Oh, okay.
So, I was thinking.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2008, 2009. That was the first project that actually put money in my account so that I could keep the lights on.
And how impactful has YouTube been throughout this whole thing? I mean, because you're pretty big on YouTube.
The YouTube thing happened like an accident. Honestly, because I didn't plan to be a YouTube celebrity. I didn't know that it was possible to have a million subscribers. I didn't even know it was possible to get paid by YouTube.
Yeah.
That's really what made the big difference. So here I am using YouTube as an internet marketer. I'm making videos, answering questions, creating great content so that I can get leads.
Yeah.
People will click my link, they go to my email list, and so if I have a football program, whatever it is, I can sell it. That was my idea.
Yeah.
And I was doing pretty good, making a video a week or so. And then I'm contacted by a guy named Keith Hodge, who has a really he had a big channel at the time, bigger than mine was. He and his brother, called the Hodge Twins. And he says to me, he says, Elliott, like, you're pretty good at making these videos. Why aren't you monetizing them? Why aren't you turning on ads? And I was like, well, what the fuck? Am I gonna make like 20 cents a video? Like, just leave me alone. He was like, look, if you turn on your ads for 1 month, this was a challenge to me. He said, just turn on your ads, just see what happens.
Yeah.
Turn it on for 1 month, and we'll give you a shout out on my channel, and you'll see what this actually can do.
Okay.
I turned it on. My first month, I made like $16,000.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I mean, because I was growing, I probably had 250,000 subscribers, and back then you could make a lot more with the ads because the market wasn't saturated.
Okay.
So, just by making a couple more videos and turning on ads, I made 5 figures. So I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it took me off track, but it totally revolutionized what I was doing, and I put all my eggs in that basket. And for about 3 years, I went balls to the wall, creating multiple videos a day.
Like, how many videos do you have now total? How many have you made altogether, would you say?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
If I add my 3 channels up, probably close to 2,000.
Holy shit, really? Mm-hmm. Wow. How often do you pump out videos today?
When I feel like. So
Okay.
minimum once a week.
Okay.
And I just started again. I took a long break.
What was the long break all about?
Well, in retrospect, it was a lot about catching up with unfinished business. I started out as a trainer, a coach, gym owner, a publisher and a writer. And then when YouTube came, I dropped all that and ran with it's like gold rush.
Yeah.
So I just ran with it, and I dropped a lot of aspects of myself, creative expression that I would have otherwise enjoyed doing, that were also very profitable. And I got to a particular point where my soul sensed that it was time to come home.
Okay.
And so I took a hiatus from YouTube. Had to do some deep soul searching.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with creating context for who I had become and having a course correction on who I actually am and what I am here to do. I had to face that I wasn't here to be a YouTube celebrity. There was faced with that dilemma where, now, do I become an entertainer and do whatever I can to continue to entertain the masses? Or do I go back to the truth of being a teacher, being a healer, being a practitioner, being a thinker and a writer? And one has stars all around it and is very enticing, but wasn't my truth.
Okay. And there would be nothing wrong with it if that was. I mean, people evolve.
Guys that are still doing it is great.
We were discussing that at lunch. We both evolved and head in different directions. But okay, so then continue on. So
so I took some time, and the fruit of that humbling, that going down into the dirt, yielded a lot of fruit for me. So over the course of those past few years, I revived my publishing company, and we've published and are continuing. I spoke to you earlier about doing the documentary on Dr. Squat.
Yeah, talk about that a little. That's exciting. I don't know how much you could tell about it, but
yeah, well, Dr. Squat is a legend.
Fred Hatfield, for those who don't know.
Fred Hatfield was the first man to squat 1,000 pounds. He was also a scientist. His name Doctor wasn't just added to him. He was actually a doctor.
Not like Dr. J.
Right.
Or Dre.
And he was a prolific writer. He wrote for all of the top magazines in the 80s and 90s. And he also published like 14, 15 books. The guy was a prolific writer. Genius and a beautiful man. And he approached us because he lives in Clearwater, and he's been to some of my events, and we've met each other. He was my first certification. I got through his certification program, which was like in 1999. It was called ISSA. So I knew him, and we hit it off, and he knew that we were doing online publishing, and he says, look, Elliott, I've got all these books. I don't know what to do with them. They're not selling, but they're wonderful content. So he approached us to help him republish all of his work. We decided that the best way to do that is to shed light on the legend that he really is. I mean, he trained so many professional athletes. The list goes on. The world needs to know about him.
Yeah.
But he's pre-internet age.
Right.
So we decided to do a documentary first. We recorded the documentary interview with him, and literally a week and a half later, he passes away.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with quite a bit of responsibility in our back as far as my media company is concerned. And we want to do a really good job shedding light on the legend that is Dr. Squat and bringing his wonderful work back to the public.
Yeah. Talk about some of the other projects you have going on right now.
Right. So out of that break also yielded Strength Camp, which started out in the back of my van and was hopped from little warehouse to little warehouse to finally moving into a good place, respectable place where I could train. We could train lots of people. So we started developing.
How big is your main place now that you're at?
8,000 square feet.
8,000. That's pretty good size.
Yeah, especially given living in St. Petersburg, which, by the way, is the laziest city in America.
Yeah.
It's been voted.
That's crazy.
They say it. The people spoke. So, and I'm cool. I'm happy with that. It shows that we can grow a gym in the laziest city. And it's 8,000 square feet, and it's bumping. And we have wonderful clients. We have a wonderful service there.
Let's take a pause for 1 second. Talk to some people who are struggling in their gym business. What are they doing wrong? What can they do to improve their gym business? What are some tips that you think everyone should do?
This is a mindset shift for all professionals, especially experts that share their service out dollar for hour. You know what I'm saying? Trainers and doctors, so on and so forth. And that is, you're a marketer. You're first and foremost, because if you're gifted, you're going to want to give your gift to as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
If you don't realize that 50% of your ability to give your gift to the world has to do with marketing and sales, then you're pretty selfish. A lot of people think that they're being somehow spiritual by not wanting to market, and they got all kinds of icky feelings.
But here's the thing. I think that is just insecurity.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And they don't honestly believe in their product or service enough.
They don't believe in themselves, self-worth, knowing that it's okay to have, be abundant. So I can only point that finger because I've been able to point that finger at myself.
Yeah, totally.
I have a complete compassion for that because I remember having those self-limiting beliefs
100%.
About money.
Yeah. How important is building community in a brick and mortar gym?
Well, community is why people keep coming back.
Yeah.
People keep coming back because of the heart connections that are made from the top down and around. So you could be the most technically skilled trainer and you could be offering a wonderful service, but one of those things that has to shine is your friendship, your love for the people, and the people will continue to share and spread that love amongst one another.
Totally. Are there any specific tactics you would recommend for that? Like, just do you say make sure you plan once a month, you have a barbecue, you have a social event, or any kind of specific tactics that you do to kind of foster that community and make sure that the trainers and staff you have working under you are making the clients feel special and connected?
Earlier, you and I were talking about having coaching groups, and you had a coaching group, and I know you'll be able to relate to this. It's key to work with people that you like and that like you. Here's the thing, not everyone's going to be your customer, and they shouldn't be.
Right.
So when we're putting ourselves out there authentically, we're hoping to attract people that we like being around and like being around us and like being around one another. So it's one of these things that you can't really calculate per se. There are things that you'll do authentically because you like being there, you like those people, but it has everything to do with coming from your truth and your integrity and standing in that place of service.
Yeah. So tell us more about everything you have going on, because you have a lot of shit going on. You continue to evolve, which is what I love. And it's funny because we were talking before, even if we're on a path that is guaranteed a certain amount of financial success or whatever it may be, you always have to follow your truth and your heart, and you're like, fuck it, I can't do it. I just got to evolve. I got to move on to something else. So what else do you have going now? In the future, what are you excited about?
Well, my newest project, passion project, really coming from my heart, is Grounding Camp. Grounding Camp is where we hold retreats, active meditation retreats, where I teach Osho active meditations and bioenergetics.
Now, when did you first start meditating?
The first time I ever meditated, I didn't know I was meditating, but it was when my uncle, of course, black belt in Kung Fu, he knows what he's doing, taught me how to do this recovery exercise, he called it.
Okay.
And I was probably about 14, 15 years old. And he says, every night before you go to bed, I was talking to him about, my body being sore and achy from working out. And he says, well, do this relaxation technique. Every night before bed, while you're laying in your bed, just close your eyes and imagine a scanner coming from the top of your head, down your face, crossing your eyeballs, crossing your nose, crossing my jaw, crossing my heart, arms, across my belly. So just imagine the scanner all the way down the body, and then it works its way back up. And he says, just spend about 10 minutes visualizing this scanner and feeling the scanner. This is an active meditation because it requires, or it's about the sensations in your body. In fact, all meditations are body meditations. All meditations require the body to be, for us to be in touch with what's going on in the body. That's why breath is so important with regard to meditation.
Yeah.
Because it's literally an exercise. Breathing is an exercise. So it happens through the body. There's a mechanism there. So how conscious and aware are we of how we're using our body in any given moment, particularly as it relates to our most primal rhythm, which is inhalation and exhalation. So he would instruct me to sense my body while I was being scanned.
Okay. And so back to Grounding Camp and what you guys do there.
Mm-hmm. So I first discovered active meditation. I say Osho active meditations because there are specific ones that we teach that I learned from Osho. Are you familiar with Osho?
No.
Osho is an Indian mystic. He has a biography an autobiography called The Autobiography of an Unconventional Mystic.
Okay.
He's a badass. He was put in prison by the American government. There's a lot of controversy around his name. His philosophy was deeply resonating. He's
ringing a bell now.
Rebel.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read his philosophy, he is very rebellious.
Okay.
And it's struck with it. I'm a rebel.
Sure.
So I loved it. And he spoke about meditation, but he spoke about meditation that required physical activity. And as an athlete, as a coach, as a very physical person, I saw the value in what he was explaining and the process he was sharing. And one in particular that I decided to go to a workshop and participate in was called dynamic meditation. And I'm not going to go through all the stages here, but I will tell you this, that it's very physically demanding. And it requires that we get into that zone flow state that you and I were talking about. When we're in that flow state, because our body, our breathing, and our movement are in one, we're in meditation. We're in unity. We're in oneness with ourself and the universe. We're literally being carried. Like those athletes who are winning games because they're in the flow, they're literally being carried, guided at that moment. There's no mind involved.
Right.
They're not thinking and calculating a shot.
Sure.
They're just in flow and the ball is going to go. So we can stimulate that. We can create that by having a deep connection to the sensations in our body while moving in a spontaneous, nonlinear way. Meaning there's a dancing portion to a lot of what we do and what's involved in Osho active meditations, but they're not choreographed. In fact, the worse you dance, the better. Okay. It's about allowing your body to be carried, allowing your body to be moved, staying fully engaged with your breath and what is ultimately coming up naturally and spontaneously in the body. When we remove the blocks that hold us back from moving, shouting, expressing ourselves in that flowful state, we literally remove the stories and the psychological inhibition that doesn't allow us to express ourselves fully in our walking lives.
Yeah.
You follow that?
Yeah.
All right.
You're deep, son. You're deep.
So we do that, and it's a lot of fun. It sounds fun. Look, meditation doesn't have to be a frigging bore. Meditation, that state of flow can be achieved and should be achieved through pleasure, through fun, through spontaneity, through childlike behavior. Children don't have to meditate because when they're playing, they're fully engaged.
Right.
They are meditating.
I love that.
So we act like kids.
Yeah.
And then bioenergetics is a form of neo-Reichian breath work that I learned around the same time, over 10 years ago. And if I could compare active meditations to CrossFit or group training, bioenergetic breath work is like one-on-one work.
Okay. Gotcha. So tell me give me one or two specific ways how you were very, very different from when you and I first connected 10 years ago. Because you continue to evolve and grow and push yourself. How are you different from then in one or two significant ways? And also, what is less important to you now?
I would say the major difference between who I am today and who I was when we met 10 years ago has everything to do with self-love,
Okay.
self-acceptance, self-compassion. I no longer have to prove myself, and I no longer have to excuse myself any longer. I just am, and I accept myself fully. There was a time where I would, I'm very expressive, but I would always judge myself or hope that I did it right or wonder what the other person think. I mean, especially when you're on YouTube, I really was heavily invested in my persona.
Yeah.
Because people have to like me to keep watching and so forth.
Yeah.
A part of me separating myself from YouTube it was about separating myself from those infantile, grandiose neediness, where today I just don't give a fuck. Yeah. I'm me, and if I find myself saying or doing something or being a way that maybe I would have judged in the past, I just let it roll off my back now, and I say, hey, I'm Elliott Hulse. Fuck it. Self-love, man. It's been the most empowering thing.
Yeah. And is there anything that stands out that is maybe less important now and maybe more important now than 10, even 20 years ago?
What's more important now to me is staying connected to myself. When I say that, it has a lot to do with what I just described as self-love, but not looking outside myself for things to change or people to change or circumstances to be other than what it is, but coming home and being okay with what is.
Yeah. Do you consciously, because, we live in a world where it's really hard not to compare yourself to everybody all day on social media and everything. Do you consciously avoid consuming too much of that stuff? Because you are human at the end of the day. You could see, oh my God, this guy's doing this guy's doing that. So if not, how do you avoid comparison and letting that bum you out? Because it could bum anyone out.
Dude, I'm so self-centered that I don't see anyone else. I don't know what the fuck anyone's doing. Dude, I'm focused on me.
I love it.
And I think the biggest drawback to that is that sometimes it's like I live under a rock. People are having conversations about things. People know about shit. I don't know about anything.
You don't know about anything.
Because I'm navel gazing. I'm over here worried about me.
Yeah.
So it has its pluses and its minuses, but that's where I'm at right now. I don't compare because I'm not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself going? What's next? What are you excited about? Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, part of the reason why we're out here is to work on developing Strength Camp as a franchise.
Yeah, we got cut off before, so expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so we're hoping to take the wonderful model that we built in order to bring fitness to the laziest city in America to the world. We have a wonderful culture, we have a wonderful program, and we have wonderful marketing and a wonderful platform. So for many years, people have said, when's a strength camp coming to my city? When's a strength camp? And this is all over the world, When's it coming to Saudi Arabia? So we decided that it's time to do that. We have all the systems, we have the platform, we know how to succeed. I want to help other gym owners succeed by lending my platform and my expertise to their success. You know, I want them to have wonderful lives as gym owners.
So cool to see, you know, that level of success. Like, I didn't even realize, and I apologize for not knowing this, that you had 6 locations already, and the potential and what you're doing is awesome. It's inspiring, especially knowing you so long. And, you know, you inspire me by the way you continue to grow. Like we said before, like, there are some people who are they just do one thing forever, and that's often cool. That's admirable.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about you, when I can relate, is it's hard for me to do that. It's hard for you to do that. Like, we just continue to evolve, and so I get inspiration from you. So I thank you for that. Where can everybody find out more about your stuff? Find you online, on social?
ElliottHulse.com. Just Google my name. It'll be the first one that shows up. Go to my YouTube channels, and you'll see me blabbing face to face with you.
Absolutely. Awesome. I appreciate it, my friend. And guys, thanks so much for listening.